Welcome, welcome! It's Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy bringing you another Star Citizen video. And today we are with Grim SJ from STARJUMP YouTube channel, the guy who brought you the Drake Interplanetary Cinematic here for the 2950 IAE. What a phenomenal video. The guy is super talented. Make sure you go to his channel. I will link it in the description down below. Give him a like, give him a subscribe, give him a lot of love because the dude has a lot of talent and the video is absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to show it here at the beginning of our podcast while we're talking. You'll hear the music and stuff in the background. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoy this podcast, and we'll see you at the end. I've been doing the YouTube thing for about 3 years, and only in the last year has my YouTube channel taken off because I tried something a little different. And all my YouTube stuff just about's been Star Citizen related. So how did you get into Star Citizen? Let's start with that. How did you come across Star Citizen? What made you decide to get involved with the game?
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is I actually found out about Star Citizen way back during the original, Kickstarter push. I think, what was that, 2012 or 13, something like that. And I remember looking at it, and I remember thinking when I kind of read what the vision was, I was like, this is what I want to play. This is a game I've been waiting for. Then I quickly found out that, this was going to be a long time in development project. So I didn't back the game at that time. I kind of just always followed it in the news. And this went on for years. I've always been into games. I actually went to college originally for game design and stuff. And so I kind of followed it.
Wow.
And, it wasn't actually until last year, 2019, that I decided to back the game finally. And part of that was really just because, for me personally, and it's obviously different for everybody, it's subjective, but for me, the game had to meet a few kind of specific things, little milestones for me to say, okay, now I will back it. And I think it was around patch 3.0 that it hit some of those like milestones, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to back. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been about, and I've been playing pretty regular since then. So it's probably been like about a year of like good hardcore Star Citizen gaming.
If anybody is going to be watching this video, I know there's going to be a few of you. This is Grim SJ. He's the STARJUMP on YouTube. He's created this phenomenal Drake Interplanetary trailer for 2950 IAE, and it was just fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Everybody that's seen it is blown away by it. That's my experience with it. It popped up on our Gilded shortly after I saw it the first time. I think it popped up in Spectrum. It was really phenomenal. Wrath, did you just finally get to see it today, or had you seen it before?
No, I just finally saw it today, and yeah, that's some really good work, man.
Awesome, yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's exciting to see it spread out, especially when I started the project. I had really no intention of it being anything more than I would just post in my own Discord channel with like 5 people I know.
Right.
So yeah.
I remember early on, I downloaded CryEngine and I grabbed some models. It was tough trying to get the textures and everything together, and obviously I wasn't even going to try to get into any animation or anything like that. I mean, is the video made? Everything is that all in engine and lumberyard, or did you pull assets out into something else, and then bring it back in, or did you, what is everything? Are the animations being done inside of lumberyard? I mean, how are you doing that, man? This is great work.
Well, so that's a great question, and the short answer is it's all done in Cinema 4D, which is a 3D software package I use, daily in my career. I work as a art director, visual effects director in like film and television. And,
awesome. That's awesome.
And yeah, so Cinema 4D is kind of, I don't know what the best way to say. It's a poor man's 3D software. That's what it is. But it is really powerful, and we use it daily in my industry. And what I started doing, like most people probably, is I would go on like Starship 42 and check out ships and check out the sizes of ships. And then I got to the stage where I was like, I really want to like explore the ships in detail. So I was pulling down the holo models from the RSI website, converting them, because they come down in one format, converting those and then bringing those straight into Cinema, the converted files.
No.
Which is great, but there's a couple problems with that. The first problem is that no textures come over. It just comes as a gray
Right.
model. And it's also hollow models, so they vary in quality. Some of them are really nice, and it has no bearing, honestly, if it's a release ship or an unreleased ship. The hollow models are all over the place in terms of quality. Some of them are really, really good, and some of them are just garbage. And so I would pull these models down. I'd bring them into Cinema 4D. The first task I had to do was texture them. So all the textures are not Cloud Imperium textures. They're my textures. I created them.
So let me ask you this.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. How long did it take you to texture just like one vehicle?
So it got faster as I went. The first ship that I did was the Corsair. You guys may have saw some stills come out maybe about a month ago of a really nicely done Corsair being hit by the sunlight. That was another artist named Tom Shaw, and me and him have been in close contact. So as he was doing his Corsair, I was also doing mine. But at the time, I had no intention of doing a cinematic. I was just doing pretty ship renders. So I did the Corsair, and that one did take a while. It took probably about a week to get that texture work done.
Wow.
However, once the cinematic kicked into gear, I was texturing ships in about one night. It took about a night to do it, unless it had something special going on with it. Like there's a scene in the cinematic where there's a Hull C, and there's some like moving video advertisements playing on its panels. That obviously took a little longer. But it picked up once things got into gear and I started getting all my resources and stuff in place.
That kind of parallels my adventure into video making. At first, it took forever to get through one edit of a video, or it was a really, really lousy edit. And as I've done this on a daily basis over the last year or so, I can really knock out an edit pretty quick. Now, it's not necessarily high quality.
You get your tips, you get your tricks, and your kind of like
your
bag
workflow
of resources ready. And it helps. So I mean, I would say too that all the ships are hollow models pulled in from the RSI website. Anyone can do it. It doesn't take anything special to do it. It takes about 2 seconds to download it from the RSI site. The only exception to that is the Kraken, and the Kraken had a completely different pipeline associated with it, and I really should thank a member of the Citizens Reactor community, a guy named VMXEO. He really helped me acquire the Kraken model, which is actually the in-game model of the Kraken, like its actual game model, not the hollow model. The hollow model's garbage. Well, the real issue with the hollow model of the Kraken is that to do all original texture work would have taken like a month. The Kraken is huge. It has a lot of parts and pieces. So VMXEO really helped me pull the Kraken asset from the game, bring that into Blender, and it did bring over most of the textures and some work that VMXEO had done to it himself. And then I was able to take that, push it further, add lighting and some other aspects to it to bring the Kraken to life. The Kraken is cool though, because the level of detail we have in the model, I mean, we can zoom all the way down to like doorways and stuff. So
that's amazing.
Once I acquired that model, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do a few Kraken scenes, because originally the cinematic only had one scene of the Kraken in it, and it was very brief and from a distance. So it was only that once I acquired that model, so big thanks to him, that I was able to like push those scenes and kind of blow it out.
That was going to be a question that I was going to ask too. Is I know, especially when you're doing those type videos, that sometimes you have to rely on the help of others to help in certain things. Are there any other people that you want to give credit to help for helping you, get that video out there? Because that's a huge undertaking.
Well, I would just say that like VMXEO is the one that really helped with the Kraken. Everything else was mostly me, except for there were a large group of people out there that helped get this out to everybody, and I don't have a large, barely any like social media presence or community presence in Star Citizen. So, you know how it is with YouTube and their algorithms
Yeah.
and all that stuff. It wasn't going to get seen by anybody. So, big thanks to people like yourself. I had a lot of people put in the comments of the video, hey, I was sent here by, Texas Space Navy and all that stuff. So, big thanks to you guys. Montoya of Test Squadron did a reaction video to it that helped a lot. DG360 played it live on his stream. I think Execute from Star Citizen Leaks and Info Runners had saw it and kind of pushed DG360 to show it on his show. So that was a big boost to the views and stuff. So and then just all the other people that have seen it, shared it, seen it, shared it. It just has really built up, and it's looking like as of probably later tonight we'll cross the 25,000 view mark on YouTube, which is great for a channel that a week and a half ago had no subscribers and no views.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's
pretty happy
huge
with that.
Excellent.
And obviously, just an absolute huge thanks to everyone that's helped share it, because it's really helped push me to do more. Originally, I did the Drake one, and I thought, well, maybe we'll do something after that. And I could talk about this later. There's some other StarJump content coming that was always planned to come, but the cinematic was like the first thing.
Well,
And,
hey, what a way to hit the freaking YouTube. I mean, that's a phenomenal. Well, I mean, I saw some of your other videos where you were teasing and stuff as well, but that video is a phenomenal jump into the YouTube space. And
I appreciate it. And that will help. I mean, as we start to release more content, the next one coming up will be Crusader, and I've already kind of started production on it.
Definitely looking forward to that. Definitely. Yeah. So now that you've been doing this, I imagine it took a couple of months at least. Do you have a good workflow going? Like, do you have a process that you stick to that really works for you? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that would love to do something similar, and they would probably love to hear your best practices when it comes to making a video like this.
Yeah, well,
if you want to share.
The first one, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the first one is to get a structure and a plan right from the beginning, because that whenever you're doing anything like this, and I deal with it all the time in my industry, the first thing you really should do is kind of storyboard or get a clear written out idea of every scene and how that is going to progress. So to backtrack a little bit on the Drake cinematic, it was actually going to be much different originally. It was going to have a voiceover to it, kind of a gravelly blue collar voice, sort of like the Kraken cinematic that CIG did. It had a voiceover recorded and everything. I don't know if any of you know the YouTube channel Honest Trailers, but I got the guy who does Honest Trailers, his voiceover. I got him to record a VO.
No way.
For the cinematic, and it was really cool. The VO went through every ship as every ship was shown, and it had a whole different music track. It was like a rock music track and stuff. The problem was, as I put it together, it really did not work, and it felt like it was just too low energy. So I ended up scrapping it. I didn't use the VO, didn't use the same music, and I lost some shots. So what the cinematic is now, while I think it is cool, I think it lost a little bit of its storytelling side of it because of sacrifices I made to rush to get it done for Drake Day during the IAE. So that was
maybe you have to do you'll have to do a director's cut.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a bit unfortunate. So in moving on to the next project, the Crusader project, I'm really taking my own advice, making sure I build a good cinematic, a good storyline that not only shows the ships and shows the manufacturer and everything, but has at least a little thread of story going on. Now, the story behind the Drake one, obviously, is all these ships are doing their things and they finally come home to the Kraken, and then they leave it on a jump, through a jump gate, which is fine.
Yeah, I got that story. I felt that story.
Yeah, and the Crusader one, I want to inject the same amount of stuff, but I want to make sure I do it in a little bit more of an organized way. So my biggest piece of advice would be to get your story in place and get an understanding of how long it should be, how many shots you're going to need. I was really kind of flying by the seat of my pants on the Drake one, and as I got closer to the IAE, about a week out, I was still creating completely new shots. I was actually
Wow.
completing new shots a day before I released it. There are a number of deleted scenes that were worked on to some degree, some even finished, that got cut for just timing purpose. I couldn't get them in the edit quick enough. But one of them, to give you an idea of how up to the wire production was on it, one of the scenes I had a Kraken just absolutely decimating a Perseus and just destroying it. And the Perseus was breaking up in the atmosphere as the Kraken flew past it with all of its guns blazing.
That would have been
And
awesome.
and the Perseus model had only been out for like a day.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had pulled the Perseus model through some help from some of the guys over at Citizens Reactor, and I did a quick texture pass on it, but I couldn't do a full texture pass on it, so I made sure the ship was like breaking apart and on fire and all this shit. So, oops, sorry, ship cut.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So there was scenes like that. I mean, right up to the wire. And some people were saying, "Oh, just delay it." And I said, no, I'm going to release this on Drake Day. It may not be finished in my mind, but it's one of those things you could keep working on it for another 3 months.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The whole thing though took 6 weeks. Every night it was essentially every night for 6 weeks. So probably about 3-4 hours a night for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, when you see some of the storyboards for movies, I mean, they have every single scene in cartoon format,
Yeah.
and then they go, then they base all their scenes on those. So yeah, I understand that what it could take to create something like that.
Yeah, and exactly, and obviously there was sacrifices made. I've seen a couple comments on the YouTube that some people were like, "Is there a 4K version?" I was like, "Unfortunately, no. Due to time and stuff, I could not render the scenes higher than 1080p. But for the Crusader, everything will be 4K." So there was again sacrifices like that I'm hoping to not have to deal with the cinematics going forward, and the goal is to eventually do every manufacturer. So,
well, see, to me, there's like two different ways you can be successful on YouTube, or at least gain a following. One is to just blow it out of the park with videos like yours. You'll get that following, which I'm really shocked. Your channel hasn't grown even more yet, but I'm hoping after today it will, because I'm gonna pump you up. I think you deserve it.
I appreciate it.
And then there's the other method, which is the method I've had to use for pretty much an entire year, actually a little over a year now, where you try to get a post out every day so you get on the algorithm and you stay on the algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's brutal doing it that way. It really is
difficult. Yeah, and STARJUMP, to be totally clear, is really me and a really good friend of mine who kind of goes by Ender within our Star Citizen group, and he's a longtime kind of content creator partner of mine. But we did a lot of our stuff in another game, Arma 3. Which we played since it first came out. We had a podcast for that game, and we were huge. We were actually the biggest kind of content creators in that community in terms of news and all that stuff. We actually had the developers of the game on our podcast and stuff like that
awesome.
several times, and we were really plugged into that. We loved doing content together. But when it came to Star Citizen, it was a very different beast in that there's a ton of Star Citizen content creators out there, and not only that, there's a lot of really high quality ones too. And just like you said, there's a lot of stuff that falls into two camps. You have the people that put stuff out, great quality stuff daily, and then you have people that maybe don't put stuff out every day, but their quality level's really high. Like a morphologist or something like that. And so for me and him, we always said, if we're going to do something content related in Star Citizen, we're not going to compete with any of that. We really don't have an interest to. We work kind of crazy hours, so we're no way we keep up with that. But we thought that if we were to do something, we want to do content that is unique and just truly different. And maybe it won't be every day, but if we can deliver something every 2 weeks that is unique, that maybe people haven't seen, then it's something we want to try. We want to do our own version of kind of a ship show where we talk about ships, but we want to do it in a way that people are not currently doing it, and that I'm going to take these ships and we're going to fly cameras all around them up close and do detailed breakdowns of them. And, including things like we're going to rip the Kraken apart and show like interior spaces, not actually
That would
what
be
they look like
awesome.
design, but
Yeah.
in terms of how things flow and all that stuff. So just a different type of video, and we're still a little ways out from having any content like that. But in the background, we continue on with these cinematics. And our goal, again, is we're not looking to make this our job. We both have jobs. It's really just for the passion of the game,
Yeah.
and enjoying it. That's it. So that's
Well,
kind of the only goal.
I have started making money on my YouTube channel, but it's definitely not enough for a living. So I can't say that I do this for a living. I do enjoy doing it, and one of the things I would like to do with the Texas Space Navy channel is at least like maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks is do a in-game podcast where we have cameras on. Everybody that's there, kind of sitting around in a lounge somewhere.
That'd be great.
In the verse.
So there's actually, on your website, one of the things I really love about the Texas Space Navy website is that all the ships are named and there's a backstory behind them and stuff. And that's the key thing with STARJUMP. And what people will come to find out is all of the stuff we are going to do is all through the lens of roleplay. At various levels
Degrees,
of intensity, I guess. Yeah. So, but we're big role players, both me and my good friend, and we. That was kind of another hallmark we put out, is that if we do anything, we're always going to make it role play focused, or if it's a cinematic, it's going to feel like there's some sort of story being told. If we do
right.
A dissection on a ship, then we're going to do it through the lens of role play and nothing else.
Yeah, we have a large contingent of people that are very much into role play.
Yeah.
Of course, I come from like a D&D background, so I love to role play. So
yeah, and so does he. He D&Ds every Saturday night. That's his thing. So, one thing I did want to bring up on the show, and again, I appreciate you having me on to talk about it, is you were asking if there's anyone I want to thank. I would say that two of the biggest people, well, actually three that I would like to thank, whether they hear this or not, I don't know, are two CIG employees, and I think one's a former employee, but the first one is, and they're all concept artists, Paul Jones, Gavin Rothery, and Sarah McCullough. And specifically with Paul Jones and Gavin Rothery, it was two specific images they created that led to the cinematic ever being thought of. With Paul Jones, he did an image of the Kraken. I think it's on ArtStation, and it's called Kraken Emerging from the Deep, and it's the Kraken coming out of this misty cloud,
yeah, I think I've seen that.
View. Yeah, and if you look in the cinematic, there's a scene that mirrors it almost exactly. Now I've changed some things. I got other ships flying in, some lights and stuff, but in terms of the camera angle, the smoky fogginess of it, it's almost identical. And that was to kind of pay homage to that piece of concept art. And then the other one was, I think, another Paul Jones image, which was the Corsair flying through an ice asteroid field, kind of above the camera. And one of my Corsair scenes mimics that to a T. Now, I didn't go with like ice asteroids. I just went with rocky ones for technical reasons. But
you could definitely see the influence there.
Yeah, so there, I don't know if anyone else caught that from like an Easter egg point of view, but those two images, both of which are my wallpaper on my, computer, really inspired me to do this. Take this from just a pretty ship rendering to like full scale cinematics. So
yeah, go ahead, Wrath. Sorry.
Oh no, I was saying that's cool. Yeah, you got an idea for an entire cinematic from a couple of scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, one of the most striking scenes in the whole cinematic, which I love the whole thing. Don't get me wrong, but I really love the freaking Drake Cutlass blue scene. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, the blue and the red chase.
That just pulled you right in. Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that was another scene that, like most of the scenes, there's kind of a backstory where they started off as something else and then kind of morphed into what is there. And you can probably see it a little bit with the Cutlass red and blue. Um, as I was building the scene, I never knew if it was going to be a scene where someone was in trouble and they were like chasing them down in kind of a runaway broken ship, or if it would been someone that broke the law and they're like chasing them down. I was like, well, it doesn't make sense that the red would be chasing someone who broke the law. I was like, you know what? I'll make this scene about both of these the blue and the red, chasing down another ship. You don't know if that ship is the bad guy or a good guy who's just got a destroyed ship and they're going to help or hurt. You don't know.
Right.
I kind of left it vague, but that was where that ended
I like
up.
that.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
I like that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that scene where the docking collars come out, the original VO that was recorded at that moment when that happens, I think the VO said something like, and always there to lend a hand or something like that as the docking collars are connecting. So, again, it's a shame the VO was lost because it really did connect a lot of the stuff. But, again, maybe a director's cut.
Yeah, a director's cut somewhere down the road. That'd be great.
Yeah. And, with almost every scene, I tried to put something in there that the owners of those ships would get a kick out of because maybe they just haven't seen it in that way before. So, for example, with the blue and red, those ships are already out, but I thought, oh, well, I'll do like a ship-to-ship docking moment. And I don't know if CIG has any plans to do it that way, but that was just my own vision of how it could be done. But I did that.
Well, the vulture scene was great too because nobody's ever seen anything like that for that ship.
Yeah, and in a scene like the vulture, and even the Corsair, and the Kraken. Well, the Kraken has a cinematic, but for the vulture and the Corsair, people really haven't seen them in motion.
No,
either.
Not at all.
So with the vulture, I originally just thought I'd have it kind of flying through the environment, and I started looking at the holo model, and I said, I could cut out all the kind of garbage, low poly model of the laser cutters because those laser cutters are up there in the holo model. I'll just cut them out, rebuild them from scratch, and have them fully animated. And that's what I did. That's what those cutters actually do look like on the current Vulture model. If they're going to function that way, I don't totally know, but I think that's the idea.
CIG may reach out to you to get them to function that way.
Hey, go for it. But those arms are actually on the Vulture, and I tried to give each ship its little moment in the sun. With the Herald, I have its antenna arrays popping out, and
that was phenomenal too. I loved every bit of the video, and the fact that you did give each ship a chance to shine. I think that said Drake.
Yeah.
It almost looked like nature too. So you had one ship that looked like a crab grabbing stuff, and then then another that looked like a flower when it opened up and started taking information in.
Yeah, it's interesting kind of view on it, and that was the idea was kind of like. And I know I own some of these ships, and some of them I don't own, and some of them I'll probably never own. But I really wanted, when people watched it, I wanted them to get excited to see their ship doing something. And more so, I even threw in, obviously, as you saw, there's some non-Drake ships. And some of those are ships I love, and I wanted to put them in there for people that maybe aren't Drake fans, that they could still watch it and go, "Oh, that was pretty cool. I got to see my Nautilus fly by," or whatever.
Yeah, that scene was great. My only pet peeve is the Banu merchantman. It just wasn't big enough.
Yeah. Well, hey, the Banu will make a bigger appearance in the Crusader cinematic. So for the Crusader cinematic, which I've started model work on, some of the ships, obviously, from the Drake Cinematic, because you do see the Star Runner, you see the Starliner, the Genesis Starliner. Those two ships, well, the Star Runner is good. I got a good model for that and stuff. But the Starliner, I'm taking the model much further than what it was in the Drake Cinematic.
Well,
Because in the Drake Cinematic, you only see it for a moment. But in the Crusader trailer, you're actually going to see 4 or 5 versions of the Starliner in different liveries.
That's phenomenal because they just recently said that they're going to reconcept the Starliner, as well as the Merchantman. But that's phenomenal that you're going to show different takes on it.
Yeah, and that's you bring up an interesting point, because when I was first developing, so I put out a teaser on Spectrum probably about a month ago, and it was a still render of the Genesis Starliner, and I actually put it in the Starliner Crusader forum threads. I just said, hey, I'm working on a Drake cinematic, but I know there's a lot of Starliner fans out there. Thought you would enjoy this still image, because there's not a lot of imagery out there of the Starliner. I put that out there, and one of the first comments, and it was a fair comment, was, well, the Starliner will definitely get redesigned. It's out of metric. It's really old. It doesn't follow the Crusader design ethos anymore. And those people with those criticisms are 100% right. The Starliner does not fall in line with Crusader at all anymore.
No.
So I had to make a decision. Do I take the ship someplace else, or do I leave them as they currently are? And I stayed with leaving them as they currently are for 2 reasons. Well, firstly, I did take the Starliner and I ripped all of its engines out, and I put larger engines in it that resemble the Hercules Star Lifter. And I changed color schemes, materials, and I made it actually look a lot like a modern day Crusader ship. And you'll probably see that one pop up in the Crusader cinematic. But ultimately, I decided to show the ships as they are because, again, it was meant to be a love letter to the ships as we know them. So I wanted people that had pledged for Starliners to be able to look and say, hey, there's my ship. Yeah, of course, it may change in 2 years when they get around to redesigning that one. But at least as it is right now, I want people to look at it, recognize it, get excited by it.
I'm all for that. I mean, you picked a side and not went 2 ways. Yep. That's the appropriate way to take that challenge on.
Exactly. And some ships have different concept art. With the Merchantman, for example, there's
like 3 or 4 different kinds.
Yeah, there's concept art where it's kind of more gold. There's kind of bronzy gold. There's concept art where it's white and black. And definitely, I'm sure when they redesign it, they're reconcepting, I'm sure it's going to look a lot more like the Banu Defender in terms of its color scheme and stuff.
If you want my theory, they're going to have 2 different models of the Banu Merchantman. Mm-hmm. They're going to have the shopping mall version, and then they're going to have the blockade running version. With a big cargo hold.
I could see that.
I'm going to have to buy another one.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So you just eventually, as you're doing this, because at first I played around with like a gold version of the Merchantman, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it as close to one piece of concept art that I particularly liked, and that's just eventually you just have to make a decision, because if you start getting people's opinions on it,
it'll never end. It'll never end.
So, and then even going into scenes like with the Buccaneer, Buccaneer's been out a while. It does what it does. It really doesn't have any like secret stuff we haven't seen yet from it. So when it came to that ship, I was like, well, let's have it dogfighting a ship that people haven't seen flying around yet. We'll do the Talon, So I tried to give each scene something. Obviously, the Caterpillar, I wanted to do something with its command module detaching and reattaching and docking and stuff, because I know the modularity of that ship's something people are really looking forward to.
Yeah, I know in our Gilded, there's a few people that actually commented on that, and they really loved that aspect of your video that shows the modularity of the Caterpillar, at least the crew cab coming off.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
On the when you showed the cinematics of the weapons firing, are you having to actually animate each one of those shots, or are you able to pull that somehow from the engine?
So that was an interesting one. Essentially, what I had to do to get it to fire like that, because I didn't decide I was going to have the guns firing at all till I was well past the point of like the shot was about to be sent to render, and I was actually just going to have it be a chase scene. And I was like, this is kind of stupid that the ships chasing each other with no real, impact to it. So
Yeah.
what I actually did to make the ship fire was I have small glowing rods, like imagine steel rods firing out of the barrel instead of just like light or anything. I did it with actual geometry, so it's almost like it's firing these like large steel bolts, and I just threw a ton of glow effect on them, so that it seemed a little bit more like a
You created
laser.
separate you created separate objects for
Each
each,
one, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, each round that
Wow.
comes out is a separate object that
You
comes
know,
out, and then that led to me then building the Talon model that has a break apart ability. You don't really see it in the cinematic that good because there's an explosion, but the Talon model actually fractures and blows apart like all the pieces.
well, you're going to start something amongst the community now. People are going to want to be able to fire steel rods out of their ships.
I know. Yeah, high velocity kinetic rounds. Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of like mass drivers, but they want the whole rod.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was a fun scene too. And again, another scene that was done very close to the end. The whole Buccaneer scene, I think that the Buccaneer and the Cutlass Black were the very last scenes I did. Probably did those a week before the cinematic released.
That is a testament to how well you're doing it, because that's to put that out that quickly,
Yeah,
Well,
I could get through towards the end. I could do about 2 scenes a night, and then they would take a little while to render on the render. I used a cloud-based render service called Pixel Plow, so I would submit my shots through there, and they would render. There's a cost associated with that too, so there was a monetary investment in this, but again, once it kind of took on a momentum of its own, I didn't mind putting my own money into it because I wanted it to turn out good. So
I was going to say that Cutlass Black scene. I'm sure there's a lot of pirates out there in the verse that didn't have to take their happy pills that night.
yeah,
Because
that scene on a technical level was definitely the most challenging scene, primarily because of the state of the hull models. The hull C, hull D, hull E. I needed a big cargo ship, and all those models were in a really bad state, hollow viewer wise.
well, it doesn't help that
They
they're
were,
ancient.
yeah, and the funny thing is, I probably, had I had more time, could have got a in-game hull C model, but I
Yeah.
ended up using hull hollow viewers for it, and I had to cut. So when the hollow model is taken into Cinema 4D, it's one mesh. So like I can't like turn off the cargo boxes or turn off the engine. Like it's all one piece. So I have to go in there with essentially a scalpel and cut very painstakingly all the stuff out. I knew I wanted the Cutlass Black to steal a box. So at first I cut one box off and I built a little standalone box that the Cutlass Black would pull off. Well, that box didn't match the other boxes. So I had to cut all the boxes off and rebuild the cargo array by hand
Oh
using
man.
my own boxes. And it started getting more and more complicated, but you can tell that I use the hollow model simply because if you watch the cinematic in that part, for the most part, the whole sea is only seen in 2 ways, from an extreme distance or pretty much in silhouette, like foggy silhouette. And so there was design decisions made for those scenes that sometimes were made not because that's how I wanted to do it, but because the hollow model was in such a state that, like, for the whole series, I was like, I can't show this model in very good detail because it looks terrible. So I'm going to need to show it kind of in silhouette with a lot of fog and atmosphere flying by, and whatnot. So that led to a lot of the design decisions.
Yeah, I know they've completed the whole C, so you probably could have pulled that out of the engine.
They have,
but honestly, I couldn't tell because I was just wow. The Cutlass Black is about to jack this whole C. That's the only thoughts I had, and I think that's probably everybody else too. I'm sure 99.9% of the people that are going to watch that video are not going to be thinking, oh, he just pulled that from, you know, the Hollow Viewer.
Yeah. Well, I kind of went. I said, and again, that was another scene where I specifically went. I want to do something that excites people. I know tractor beams are coming for the multi-tool in 3.12. I'm a Cutlass Black owner, and it's kind of my go-to ship, my everyday ship. And I said to myself, yeah, I've always wondered what those tractor beams that are supposed to be on it are going to be like. And I was like, you know what? It's time to envision this and see what it would kind of be like. Um, Obviously, I took some liberties, I think, with how the Cutlass can, and its engines being able to swivel like they do in some of those scenes. But there was a couple times where obviously I
well,
went for the rule of cool.
originally they were supposed to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you were kind of going based off of, the original Cutlass idea or model that they would be able to independently move their engines like that. So
it was one of those things where, again, it's just every scene I tried to pick one thing that was cool that people go, oh, that was cool that you saw that ship do that, because we never seen that before. And towards the end, actually, it was funny. I was completely done with the cinematic. It was actually rendered out. I had uploaded it to YouTube. I hadn't published it yet though, but I had uploaded it. And this was probably about 7 o'clock the night before Drake Day. And it was uploaded. I was talking to someone in Citizen Reactor channel. I was saying, yeah, I'm uploading it now. It's going to be out, here in 30 minutes. Because they had been following along in production and excited to see it as well. And it hit me as the video was uploading. I go, at the end, we see the Kraken fly by and then the Drake logo comes in, but there's nothing. There's not that one thing that like it crescendos to. Like in all the other ships, you got to see one cool thing, but with the Kraken and the Drake fleet, you see all the ships come together, but you don't really see anything else. And I felt like it needed something. So that was about 7. At 7:30 that night, I started building a jump gate from scratch.
what?
And I said, you know what? I'm going to have this thing go into a jump gate at the very end. So the problem was I had already rendered the scene with the Kraken flying by. And I knew I couldn't re-render that scene because it was about an 8-hour render. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'll render the jump gate, do all of its visual effects with the swirling inside of it and all that, and I'll just composite it into that Drake scene. And the good thing is because of my experience in feature film and television work, I had knew enough in advance when I rendered the scenes to make sure I rendered out all the mats and Luma mats and all these things we use to cut things out and composite. I rendered those out even though I didn't think I needed them. Well, I ended up using them to composite that jump gate in at the very end, which I can't even tell you how last minute it was. It was literally in the last 2 hours before I published the video.
Wow.
And then I felt like that gave it that last little bit of something that people haven't seen yet that they're waiting to see.
That was excellent, man. That was. It's amazing to hear that you came up with that. Just like what did it so quickly?
Yeah.
That is insane.
It was very quick. And the funny thing, kind of another little Easter egg for it, was originally the Herald scene, the scene with the Herald was not spying on Nautiluses flying by. It was flying on an Endeavor flying to a space station. It was kind of spying on that and ripping the data from the Endeavor. And I liked the scene, but there were some issues with the Endeavor that I wanted to push further. I know the Endeavor is a ship people are excited for, and I said,
a lot of people.
I was like, if I'm going to show the Endeavor, I'm going to go all out for it and make it a really amazing shot. So I said, so I'm not going to show the Endeavor and the Drake cinematic. I'll save it. So what I ended up doing is the Endeavor I was using in that scene was the one with the particle accelerator ring on it and the big satellite dish, right? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to rip this particle accelerator off. So I ripped it off, and I took other parts and pieces I have from some of my other assets, and I essentially built the jump gate out of that. So the funny thing is the jump gate is actually the particle accelerator ring from the Endeavor just blown up to a massive scale.
Wow, that's a great way to repurpose some of the resources you already had in the game or in engine.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's how, you know, when I've worked on a lot of big feature films and stuff, and that's how we do it in the movie world too. It's all fake. It's all an illusion. You know, you just gotta grab what you can and make it. So yeah.
As long as it works, it doesn't matter how it got there.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So,
man, that is wild. So you did mention you had a Cuddy Black. What other ships do you got? What other ships do you have already in the game?
So yeah, my fleet's steadily growing.
It has a bad tendency of doing that.
Painfully. I have a Cuddy Black, which is kind of like my go-to. I love that ship. To me, it's got that perfect kind of like Mandalorian vibe to it. What's a ship called? The Razor Crest or whatever?
Yeah. Well, the Cuddy Black is like the most versatile ship in the game. I mean,
yeah, it's great. I love it. I love it. Yeah, and so I got the Cuddy. I am a big Drake fan. Don't get me wrong. I have the big Drake mouse pad from CIG and all that.
I do too.
So I have a Cuddy. I own a Corsair, a Vulture, and a Kraken. Kraken, I was able to finally snag an Invictus this year.
Nice.
Normally I would never get anything a digital item that expensive. I had just sold a house though, and done really well on it because of the market. And I said, you know what, I'm going to treat myself. So I grabbed a Kraken. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I was looking to get
Star Runner.
I was looking to get a Kraken Privateer, or at least another Kraken, so I could apply my Privateer upgrade to it. But
yeah,
I don't have the funds for that at the moment. So it's going to wait.
I have a Star Runner, have a Star Lifter. I have the Talon Twin Pack, and I'm interested in seeing what this new possible Origin 400i is. I don't own any Origin ships, and it's mainly due to some of their interior design.
Yeah.
Aesthetics don't really fit me. I'm much more of an industrial type looking from a design aesthetic type person.
I love the 890 jump, and I hate just about all the others.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a problem with the way CIG sometimes describes Drake's ships specifically, in that they're paper thin and they cut corners and all that. I actually prefer to think of Drake's ships as just the blue collar ship.
Yeah, the everyman ship. It's the people's ship. It's the people's manufacturer.
Yeah, it's the rough and tumble Jeep that's going to get you across the Sahara. You know what I mean? It's industrial, kind of minimalist industrial aesthetic is not a weakness to it. It's actually a strength. And that's kind of the way I look at Drake as a manufacturer.
Industrial strength, but it's not quite, I don't know, industrial strength. It's working class industrial strength.
Exactly. Yeah.
Still gonna get you down the road, man.
Yeah. It's prosumer. That word they use, prosumer. It's so I definitely have a love affair with Drake. If there was a ship out there that I would say is kind of like a ship I would love to own, I do not own it. It would probably be a Polaris. I love the just kind of design aesthetic for it. However, ultimately in game, I think my gameplay will be centered more around like emergent gameplay and like getting into stuff that I can't possibly fathom. And that was a big reason why I bought the Kraken at all, because to me the Kraken was essentially the platform for, in terms of like large, massive capital ships, it had the most open-endedness to it. You know what I mean? It
I would agree with that.
Industrial flotilla, it can be the military backbone. It could be a
way station. It could be any number of things. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be an awesome hub for role play. It could be a lot of things, and so it just made sense to go that route. So
somebody that backed in 2019, I'd say we'll use a TexasSpaceNavy term for it. You've definitely gone wings deep into your fleet.
Yeah, it's not super comfortable knowing I'm on like whatever not the first tier concierge, but the second tier. It's a little painful.
Just wait till you get in as far as me. It's really painful.
I'm only half as deep as Mud Dog is, and
yeah, I keep having a lot of those first world problems where I will complain to some of my org mates, and I'm like, gold armor isn't worth it.
No.
Wonderful first world problem about.
Yeah.
So,
and there's other people in my small org of 10 people or whatnot that have other ships that kind of all complement each other. So yeah, I'm probably tapped out for the next little bit on ships.
At least until Fleet Week next, May.
Yeah, I know. I would say the Kraken is going to be my favorite once it's finally out. But if I had a ship right now that I'm probably the most looking forward to, and the Star Runner's been an amazing ship. I think they really did an amazing job on it. But if I had one ship that is like, I cannot wait for the ship to release, that ship is going to be it for me. It's probably the Corsair.
Yeah, we have a few people in our org that are just die-hard Corsair. That's the one and only ship that they really, really, really want and want to experience. I think the Corsair looks cool.
Yeah.
I hope it performs better than a Connie.
Yeah, it's a the funny thing about the Corsair, it's a very polarizing ship. People either love it or they absolutely hate it, and I totally respect it. I mean, it's subjective to each his own. It's just everyone has one of those ships though that kind of grabs.
I think it's the. Go ahead, Raph.
Sorry, it's like patchouli oil.
Yeah.
I think it's the asymmetry of it that some people like or don't like, because people are usually attracted to symmetry. Well, some people will be attracted to asymmetry because it's different. So
exactly, yeah. So yeah, ship wise, that's currently where I stand.
Awesome. Here's a question: has anybody at CIG reached out to you? And I mean, if they have, how did that go?
I've other than just I had one person reach out from CIG, just an artist there. I forget, I don't have their name up right now, but they reached out and just said, "Hey, nice work, loved it." It was kind of short and sweet, but CIG's support has been awesome because they put it on.
Yeah, they spotlighted you, which is phenomenal.
Their spotlight, and then they put it on the Twitter and all that stuff. So that's been really great of them to do, and it's always interesting, seeing how a company will respond to something that's been put out there like that. But I think their support has been really great, and I appreciate it. I will say, though, I tried to get a Polaris CCU on, RSI Day, and I missed out. I think my kid was just not having any of it, and trying to get my attention when that was going on. I was too slow. But I did message Concierge and I said, hey, if there's a path to the Polaris that can be opened up, even if it's new money at this stage, I'm interested. And then I put, P.S. I'm the community MVP this week. Does that pull any strings?
Nice.
I have not heard a response back.
Well, Concierge.
I said,
so you might not hear anything until January because Concierge gets backed up during this time of the year. But they're very good about taking care of things like that on occasion. Just depends on who you get.
I just thought it was funny. I just had to drop it in there. I'm actually not expecting it, but I was like, I'm going to drop it in there just in case.
I know a guy or two that have actually picked up a second Javelin by emailing Concierge, so it can happen.
yeah. So we'll see. But that was the only thing. But no, again, CIG's support's been really awesome, and I really appreciate that they help get it in front of as many people's eyes as possible. And again, hopefully, the message kind of gets out there, and I hope they notice it, Paul Jones and Gavin Rothery and them, that some of my scenes mimic their concept art, and hopefully that message has gotten across that it's because their concept art is so amazing and was very inspiring to me. So
yeah, I don't know how many CIG employees actually watch my videos, but I know I did have at least one about 6, 7, 8 months ago. the guy who created the 890 jump mission and the
Nice.
Caterpillar mission. But he no longer works for the company. I think he went off to another project.
Yeah.
But he commented on a couple of my videos, and I was, of course, over the moon. I thought that was awesome. And I really appreciate him reaching out to me and saying, hey, I made those missions. I'm glad you like them, that sort of thing.
The concept art is really interesting to me from CIG's perspective, almost over any other game out there, in that the concept art is, I would go so far as to say, the primary way they raise money. So, they're constantly, getting pledges for ships, especially new concepts and stuff. But those new concepts, if you had no visuals to go along with that, like how well would the Perseus have sold if there was no visuals for it? And
Sounds like the person at the helm understands the importance of cinematic visuals.
yeah, exactly. And the concept art at CIG is top notch. I work with a lot of concept artists in my industry that work, in the feature film world, the gaming world, all that kind of stuff. And I can tell you that the concept artists at CIG really blow it out of the water with some of the stuff they're able to create and the amount of time they're able to create it. So it's really amazing. It's always been kind of inspiring to me, and it's amazing how many content creators out there, are able to put out videos purely by showing that same concept art. So hopefully they, those concept artists at CIG are able to see this and kind of take it as a little bit of a, thank you for all their awesome work. So
yeah, I hope they get to see it. I'll do my best to shout it out to the heavens. Maybe they will.
Yeah.
So you did mention you use Blender and 4D Cinema. Are there any other programs that you used to produce your video?
Yeah, I was on any programs, sites, people to follow.
Because
of course,
like for me, whenever I'm doing videos, so I'm either using Windows Movie Maker, Filmora Pro, Filmora X, or DaVinci Resolve to do a lot of my videos. But I'm not doing tons of compositing and graphical heavy work.
So the process is mostly pretty straightforward. I pull down the models obviously from RSI site, and they either go straight into Cinema 4D as an STL file, or they go through Blender and then export it from Blender to Cinema. Sometimes I had to take that step, especially in regards to the Kraken. Because the Kraken had a lot of very custom textures that I wanted to preserve, namely the flight deck textures. Once I'm in Cinema 4D, I build the scene, do all the texture, do as much lighting as possible, get all the animation done, send it off to PixelPlow. And Cinema 4D is really great 3D software, easy to learn for anyone out there that wants to do 3D. It's used heavily in like the broadcast and commercial world. But I then send it off to a company called PixelPlow. They're a cloud-based rendering service. You can submit the job automatically. And you might have to pay $5 for one shot to get rendered, or $100 for.
So in other words, you're offloading your render onto another.
Offloading it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Now I could have probably rendered it local, but all said and done, I would say the cinematic was probably close to about 300 hours of rendering.
Wow.
So I didn't want to tie up my own machines or burn my own video cards out. So.
Wow.
And then I take those renders into Adobe After Effects. I do all the compositing, additional lighting. I do some of the smoke and atmosphere in there. And then I export out of Adobe After Effects as a movie file, and that goes out. Simple as that.
Simple.
Yeah,
Simple.
I dabble. I dabble, but I understand about frying video cards. It's easy. I mean, you can do a single. Just a still scene, you can try to render it perfectly for well over a day with a high-end video card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It gets really, really heavy. So to combat render times, you have to build your scenes very, very efficiently. The problem is when you're working so fast like I was to try to get it done by a specific date, I wasn't working very efficiently. I was like throwing stuff together, and it quickly could spiral out of control. The funny thing was is a lot of times it didn't have anything to do with what was going on in the scene from a geometry standpoint. So some people would probably say, "Oh, well, I'm sure your Kraken scenes were the most difficult because you get the Kraken, all these ships, and it's all big and all this." And actually, those were some of the simpler scenes. Some of actually one of the hardest scenes to render and the whole thing was the Herald scenes. They were the longest, and I still can't quite figure out why. You know what I mean? I was working so fast. Those scenes, for example, one of them took 36 hours to render one scene.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, just one shot. It took
Wow.
36 hours of continuous rendering, and I really don't know why. I'm sure if I diagnosed it, I'd get to the bottom of it. But you know,
and here I am.
It got complicated.
Like here I am complaining when one of my videos takes an hour to render.
Yeah, no, some of them. I have a second computer next to my desk. That's another workstation for my work. And I just would let it go every single night for, I can't remember how many nights, probably an entire week for hours during the night. So, and again, that leads into with the next cinematic being Crusader Industries. We're taking a different approach, and I'm building things a lot more efficient from the get-go. So,
well, you learn each time you go out and do it, so you might find a more efficient way of doing it the next time.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
The good thing with Crusader Industries is it's a lot smaller fleet, so I don't have as many ships to render, which is good.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me or Wrath? I appreciate you coming on with us and talking with us. It's been eye-opening and jaw-dropping, and you're really one talented dude. I really do love your video, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, no real questions other than I really appreciate people like you helping to get the word out. Again, as someone who didn't really have a community presence in Star Citizen, it was, critical that other people shared it and got behind it. So I can't thank everyone enough for doing that. I'm sorry a lot of scenes got cut. There was a lot more scenes that actually went into this. There's a scene towards the end where it's the camera's doing like a 360 orbit around the Kraken as the ships are flying around it.
Oh, that'd
That's
cool.
actually a longer scene. The scene actually went from the Kraken with all the Drake ships flying around it, and it morphed into a scene of the privateer with a bunch of freighter ships coming to dock with it.
That would have been cool.
Again, the scene was done. I didn't put it in, and so it's even when I look at it, I kind of look at it as almost like a half-done project. But it's been great that people like you and stuff have really gotten behind it, and I appreciate it. It's pushed me to do more. Let's put it that way. So big thank you. And then the last thing I would just add is obviously, me and my STARJUMP partner Ender definitely are going to put more stuff out on our YouTube channel. That is going to be unique in its approach. I think we're going to be going for a lot more of a cinematic role play, Star Citizen content through cinematic and role play lenses. So hopefully people will rally behind that and just again appreciate everyone's support.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. I've got 3 different YouTube accounts that are all subscribed to you now. So
awesome.
I'm trying to pump that subscriber number up as whatever way I can.
Yeah, and I'll say that right after we record this, I'm sure once you get it out, it'll be out for sure by then. But later tonight, I'll be pushing out to the YouTube channel the first materials test for one of the Starliners in the Crusader cinematic, so people get their kind of first taste of that. So
nice. I'm definitely going to direct people to your channel. It's STARJUMP on YouTube.
Yep.
Wrath, do you have anything to add? You want anything? You got anything? More questions? Anything?
Oh, no. I think pretty much got all the questions I had, at least at the moment, answered. And I appreciate your time, man. And I definitely, I'm looking forward to flying with you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Definitely got to get in the verse with you guys and take some ships out for a spin.
You should join one of our op nights. It gets a little crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. You can count on it. You can count on it. So, yeah, I'm actually gonna have a new computer hopefully here in a week, so I can actually play the game a little bit more stably. And looking forward to it. Definitely want to get it back out there and get to flying again. So we'll get together.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Everybody, check out StarJump channel on YouTube. Is it YouTube.com/StarJump yet, or do y'all have like a more drawn out? I'll put a link in my description.
Yeah, there's the channel link, and we have our Twitter as StarJump.org, StarJump.org. We have an org that's in game, but it's more just a few of us, a few friends. Really, it's not anything.
Yeah, that's all.
Other than that, but
that's all Texas is. It's just a few friends.
Yeah. So and it's just people that enjoy getting together and honestly talking spaceships. So it's all good. Appreciate all their support through this as well. So
I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. It was a lot of fun. Grim was a fantastic guest, and I hope we can actually do this again. Look for some of his stuff in the future. I think I'm going to drop a video in here that you guys can see, just a little teaser of what he's got coming up with Crusader. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Definitely go to his channel, check it out, subscribe, like, watch the videos. He's a great talent, and I'm expecting some great things from him in the future. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing to this video. And thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube members. You guys are so awesome. I'm Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy, and I'll see you out in the verse.